Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mighty Brad's podcast. Today, I got my buddy Kodi on.
That was good.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Kodi recently started making music. His artist name is Loopy, and he just released his first album. So I'll link that in the description for you guys to go check out.
Check it out.
So to start it all off, Kodi, what really inspired you to start making music?
Well, for me, I've been doing music since I was really young.
Okay.
So I was in band from like 6th grade. I know like band is like a nerd thing,
Yeah.
but it kind of gets you going in like the music direction. Like a lot of the things that I'm doing now, like my production is really good, harmony is really good, and the reason I'm good at that is because of band. Because I kind of have an ear for it now.
Right.
So it kind of made my the beginning of making music easier.
Right.
But what really got me into like the music that I'm doing now is actually my friend Kenny. He's actually a producer. His name's Prod Kenju.
Okay.
And he makes beats and stuff like that. And so he kind of we went over to his house one day, and one of my friends was supposed to come with us, but he had moved to Boca, so he was an hour away from his house. And we were like, you know what, man? Since he doesn't want to come with us, we're gonna make a diss track on him. And so we made a diss track on him, and then from that one went really good. He loved it. Everything went good. We made another diss track on somebody else. And so after all that started happening, I was like, I think I could do music for real, because a lot of my verses in the diss track were pretty good. Everybody's like, damn, that was really good. You should actually pursue it. And so here we are, man.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm a drummer myself, so being in the environment, I did band a little bit in high school, but that's about it. But I hear what you're saying. Being around just the music environment gets you into it and just gets you to be able to analyze the different parts and really get yourself in as a musician yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of times band is more than just you're blowing into a little horn. There's so much theory that goes into band, which is kind of general rules for all music. So harmonies, like I said, rhythm, all that stuff is deeply rooted in band and in all other music as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get back to the music, but
yeah.
You were telling me a little bit before that you went through some issues with not being sober, but now you're sober. So can you explain that a little bit?
So let me think. I had smoked a little bit when I was in middle school, and a lot of my friends were doing it, and everything was whatever. You're in middle school, you're trying everything out, and so middle school was kind of rough for me, but we got through it. And then when it got to high school, that's when I really started getting into smoking weed. And at my school, everybody was selling cards, and I was meeting people outside of school to buy cards off of them and stuff like that. And I don't want to say I was some kind of big addict, but once you start getting into it and it becomes a daily habit that you're doing constantly. So it would be before school I'd be smoking, during school I'd be smoking. I would leave, I would skip school to go smoke, and so it became kind of a problem. And for me, when I was younger, I was a foster child, right? So, it's a big staple in foster children is your parents are an addict or something like that. And so it kind of runs in my family. Yeah. And so even little things, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, how I lost a lot of weight. I even realized that food was an addiction for me. So there's a lot of things that, when you're an addict, you don't realize you could be addicted to.
Yeah.
Like weed, they say you can't get addicted to it. There's no withdrawals from it. Everything's fine. It's just weed. It's not like you're taking perks or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when you really abuse weed, it really can become a problem. Yeah. And so I remember there was one night I was in my room and I was eating a Chipotle burrito, right? And I had not smoked yet. I had just got off of work. It was 10 o'clock. I'm eating a Chipotle burrito, and it just tasted like dirt. And I sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna smoke some weed, to make this taste better. And I thought to myself, what the fuck am I doing? I'm smoking weed so I can eat.
Right.
I can't eat this burrito without smoking. That's a problem. Yeah. And so kind of just everything kind of clicked right there. And so obviously I struggle with anxiety, you'll see throughout all my music. A lot of it is mental health based. It's about, and a lot of times I'll sing about a girl, but also mental health is deeply rooted in that too. Because sometimes I'll sing about a girl, but really just talking about a struggle, the song Sober. I'm actually talking about my addiction. I'm not talking about a girl, So it's because it feels so pressing, And so that's why I decided to get sober. It just felt right in the moment right there,
Yeah, I think things like weed and other things that you can very well get addicted to, I think it's too normalized to the point where, like you just said, people will say that it's not addictive, but yet all these people are addicted to it, and you probably didn't realize it until you realized you were addicted. But it's like it's taking away from just the enjoyment of being life without that.
Really, and what I realized throughout it is like the way that I think about weed now is like back in the day they thought cigarettes were medicine, you know, and I feel like we're at that point right now with weed where it's like, you know, weed is a medicine, but you see all these high schoolers, you know, dropping out or getting really bad grades, skipping school like I was. And I remember when I quit weed, man, because I had been smoking for like 2 years straight, every day, all day. And when I quit, bro, the withdrawals that I went through were fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like I would come to school, I'd be sitting in first period, but usually I'd be fried for first period. Just like I would be completely gone. I'd be sitting there, nervous ticks, I'd be anxious as hell, like I'd be like breathing deeply. I remember there was one time where I sat there and I put my backpack in my lap. And I was like, dude, if I throw up, it's all going in this backpack. Like I felt like I was just gonna like puke chunks into this bag. And so like weed, I feel like it's gonna be one of those things, man. Like we thought it was so good back in the day. Oh, everybody smokes weed, you know. Even my mom said like, oh, I smoked a little weed in high school. But like, I feel like it's gonna be like cigarettes, where it's like we realize how bad it really is.
Yeah, and it's like you know, people will be like, oh, Joe Rogan smokes weed. It's like, yeah, but Joe Rogan has done a lot with his life. He's got millions in the bank. What are you doing? You're smoking weed, but you're not doing anything for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, weed, it really like it's a window to just enjoying a lazy life.
Right. You
know what I'm saying? So like I was doing nothing with my, like I wasn't getting, you know, I've always been pretty smart, you know, so like school comes easy to me, but I was getting lower grades in school. Like obviously I wasn't failing or anything like that, but my grades were dropping. I wasn't caring as much about school. I wasn't caring as much about my family. I would go out every night with my friends, smoke weed, come home, wouldn't say hi to my parents, nothing, go straight to my room, pass out, next day, same shit.
Right.
You know, so it kind of creates a cycle, and I was just doing nothing with my life.
Right.
Which I'm not saying, you know, I don't want to like hound anybody for smoking weed, because I have friends that still smoke weed. But I try and make it like very prevalent to them, like at some point, you know, you gotta mature out of this. Like I understand there's a time and place for it, right? Like I can understand a Saturday night, you know, you go out with the boys and you're just like, you know what, maybe I'll, you know, smoke a joint. But like when it becomes a consistent habit, or you like break up with a girl and you're like, you know what I need to do? I need to go smoke weed.
Right. Which
I did that before too. And so it really creates a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's become like things like that, and with drinking as well, it's become such I want to escape from reality. I don't want to deal with my problems. And you know, for like a night or two that might be okay, but when you're doing that to escape the entirety of your breakup, it's like you're never gonna get over it.
Exactly. Which is why another reason I started making music is like music kind of became like weed was like my escape, right? You'd smoke, anxiety gone, you know, freaking all the problems with the world gone. All you can think about is the stupid shit that you're watching on your phone and you're just sitting there staring at. But like when you really get down into it, you know, you need some kind of outlet, like whether it be therapy or, you know, something like that to like help your brain, you know, because weed, they say like, oh, you know, it helps with anxiety. But I'll tell you what, after I quit smoking weed, the anxiety was 10 times worse, man. Like everything just gets worse when you snap back to reality. You can't smoke weed forever, because if you do, you're just gonna fail at life, just period, man. There's probably 1 out of 10 people that like actually makes it after smoking weed the whole life, you know. And so like, I find it to be a problem, you know.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So tell me a little bit about the weight loss journey.
So all through my life, I've been like, you know, the fat kid, right, the little chubby kid. And so when I stopped smoking weed, it kind of became like a point for me to fix myself just altogether, right? And I weighed 290 pounds, right? I was huge. I'll show you a picture after. But I weighed a lot, and throughout my life, like I said, I realized that I was addicted to food too. Like it kind of was my escape before weed was my escape, you know? And so when I quit smoking, like I said before, without weed, food tasted like nothing. It tasted like I was just chewing on dirt. And so I went through a period where I probably had, you know, anorexia, but I got past it and I started, you know, eating more, and a lot of things I was eating were healthier because, you know, it fills you up and you can eat smaller amounts of it. So I was kind of going through that, and I had shed off like 20 pounds. And then my boy Kenny, who I, you know, made the diss tracks with, you know, he's a producer, like I said, he was like, yo, man, like I go to the gym a lot, like you should come with me. And at first I was like, nah, man, like I'm eating healthy, like, you know, I'm losing weight, like I'm not even going to the gym. And then when I went to the gym, I realized like the chemicals that it releases in your brain when you're just lifting those weights, when you have that music in your ears, nothing else matters but the sweat that's pouring down your face. Like it creates such an environment for me that was like, it was almost an addiction in itself.
Yeah.
Going to the gym, like I love it. Like it feels almost like I'm doing drugs again, but I'm doing like healthy drugs.
Right.
So it kind of like it really did something for me. So now I weigh 210, which I went down with like 80 pounds.
Yeah.
So it was a big thing for me, man. Like just getting healthy overall, which I think is a lot of people's problem. Which I'm not saying you can't do one thing at a time, but for me, I feel like I'm an all or nothing type of person, right? So like I quit smoking weed and I was like, I'm gonna fix everything. Like I'm gonna be the person that I want to be rather than the person that I thought I wanted to be.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna start eating better. I'm gonna start pursuing the things I want to pursue. So I started making music, and so now I'm kind of just on this journey to get better, look better, feel better.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's say there's someone watching and they're overweight, and they don't want to be overweight anymore, and they're like, yeah, I know I need to get in the gym. I know I need to eat healthier, but like I can't get myself to do it. What's your advice to them?
The gym is not the first step. That's the number one thing, man. If it wasn't for my boy taking me to the gym and me, realizing like, oh, I like this, and having the people around me to go to the gym with me, then I would not have went if it wasn't for them, right? So I think that the first step really is to learn that what you're eating really affects you, man. Like America, with the stuff that they feed us here, like it's all shit, And so you really need to like look into what you're eating, like the little things, like you'll read calories on the back of the package. It's like, oh, this is 190 calories. But yeah, it's 190 calories of literal sugar just like compacted into a candy bar, So you really need to be looking into what you're eating. The first step for me would be calorie deficit. So, you don't have to pay attention as much to what you're eating, but you realize like the portions that you're eating. Like I could not tell you, like now that I calorie deficit, I realized how much I was eating before, like it was like 4,000 calories a day and you're only supposed to take in like 2,500. And so just, paying attention to what you're eating, that really helped me to lose weight in the beginning. And then find yourself a friend that's already going, that's already committed to the gym, right? Like my boy Kenny had been going for like 6 months. So he was already every single day, and have them get on your ass about it, right? So like for me, I was lucky because I enjoyed it immediately. But for a lot of people, I know that you won't enjoy it immediately. Because me, I played football freshman year, so like, working out was kind of a thing, but I hadn't really liked it. I was just doing it because I had to. So like once I really realized like, oh, I like this, it kind of became easy to go. And so if you have a friend that you're going there with, and you're listening to music, and y'all are like, lifting against each other, like, oh, I hit a PR this week, my boy's gonna hit one next week, I need to one up and one up and one up, and it's like video games, man. You're always trying to be the best in the squad. And so once you get through all of that and you kind of fall in love with it, you'll keep going forever. And then weight loss is easy after that.
And that's the being in there with your boys and like competing with, oh, I'm gonna lift more and this and that. That's healthy competition.
Yeah.
Because you're not just against each other like, oh, I just want to beat you. It's like I'm helping myself grow and you're helping yourself grow as well.
And you're helping them grow as well, because the more that you're growing, the more that they want to grow, because they want to, outdo you. Because with dudes, it's all competition, man. Everything is, you get to the parking lot, you're like, I bet you can get to the car first, like, So it's like, I think the gym really, locks that in.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those. Even though it can be an addiction, it's overall, unless you're going 2-3 times a day because you have nothing else to do, it can be a healthy addiction. It can be a healthy outlet for when you're trying to help yourself with the breakup or weight loss, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Or even sobriety, man. Like going to the gym, another big part of me getting sober. Without those, like I said, the gym released chemicals, and it almost felt like I was doing a drug, And so it was easy to lean me off of weed into going to the gym, because it was like the same. They release the same chemicals in your brain,
right?
Except after you smoke weed, you feel like shit. Yeah. After you go to the gym, I feel like I'm gonna fucking slay the world, bro. So I feel like it's a really good outlet.
Yeah, the gym and running too. I haven't been doing much running recently, but when I do, it's running. It fucking sucks. Yeah. You running whether it's a mile, 5 miles during the entirety of it. If you're running 5 miles, once you get to 3, you're like, I can't fucking do this anymore, right? But you push through it and you get to the end and you get this. They call it runner's high. You get this feeling after of just an amazing accomplishment. Like you just said, you feel like you can conquer the world. It's just, I think physical exercise, especially as a man, it's just necessary. Yeah.
And you feel that the rest of the day too. That's the other thing. When you smoke weed, man, it's like for 2 hours you're fried. Afterwards, you feel like shit and you just want to sleep and eat all day. when you fucking go to the gym, bro, afterwards you feel amazing. The rest of the day you feel amazing. You wake up feeling amazing, and you do it again.
Yeah.
Because you want that feeling, you know. So.
Yeah. If I don't work out in the day and then I go to sleep, it's like okay, like I'm comfortable. But when I go to the gym and then I'm like in my bed at night and I'm sore, it's like I like.
Yeah, exactly. I love this feeling of being sore. It's great.
So let's talk a little bit about mental health, and I think I've dealt with a lot of anxiety in my life. I'm sure everybody has, especially in our day and age. I think we live in an age of anxiety for a multitude of reasons. And in my past, I used to suffer from depression. I was on medication and stuff like that. And so, what's your overall experience with anxiety?
So for me, when I was young, like I said, I was in foster care since I was like 6 years old. So I had anxiety, but I was in an environment where it was like, if you have anxiety, then you're not going to survive. You know, like when you're in foster care, it's really like it's like a battle royale, man. Like you're trying to be the best out of the group. Like I remember I would be kicked out of homes because like if you don't kind of assert your dominance on everybody else, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to get fought, or you're going to get your stuff stolen. And so it kind of was like a world where I could not express the fact that I had anxiety. You know, like you go to therapy, but you don't want to say anything to your therapist because all of that is being used against you, in court. So it becomes just like a cycle of like, you battering your mental health, battering your mental health, battering your mental health, right? So then I got adopted, and when I did, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and even depression. I didn't even know it, right? Because like there's no education about it, especially at the time. There was even less than there is now. All of us are just self-diagnosing, right? And so at one point, I remember I was like must have been 11 years old, and I was going to a summer camp. And every day before the summer camp, I would feel like I was gonna, like my stomach was gonna come out of me, like I wanted to throw up so bad. And my mom was like, what's wrong with you? Like, why every single time we go to this summer camp, like, you must just not want to go, like she was like, blaming me, like saying, oh, you don't want to go, that's what it is, you're faking it. But like I felt like this like real feeling inside of me. My chest was hurting. I would feel like I was gonna throw up, and I could not figure it out. We went to the doctors, and they gave me allergy medicine for it. They're like, oh, you just have allergies. You have postnasal drip. That's why you feel nauseous in the morning. Still, every morning, nauseous, chest pounding. And so we kind of, I got past it because, I didn't have a choice. I was going to go there whether I liked it or not. And so, you get past it at some point, but it would still be there, but, lesser feeling. And so for a long time, I did not understand what I had. And then, we're going to come back to this a lot, but my boy Kenny, right? He struggles with anxiety worse than me, right? And he actually goes to a psychologist, right? And when he started talking to me about the things like, oh, like I experienced this, like whenever this happens, blah, 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 I realized like, wow, I really have bad anxiety. Like this is my problem. Like for so long I thought like, oh, like my childhood fucked me up. I'm not going to be right for the rest of my life because my childhood, it's my parents. That's what did this. But then I realized like, no, there's real mental health problems. There's real things that everybody's struggling, and it's not just me. And it makes it really easy because I can talk to my boy and be like, look, man, like when you get like an anxious spiral, you're like, oh my God, my chest hurts. I'm having a heart attack. I need to start Googling every single, problem with this, blah, blah, blah. But then I can talk to him and be like, yo, like, man, like I'll be, when I get into this certain situation, my chest is like pounding. I feel like I'm going to die. And they're like, yeah, that's anxiety, buddy. And so it kind of like, helps you through it a little bit. I think friends are really important, especially with mental health.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to your point about the doctor just prescribing you that, I think it's such an issue nowadays where you go to the doctor with an issue and they're so quick to just label instantly what it is and just give you a medication for it.
Yeah.
And there's so many times a more potent mental aspect than an actual medicine that you need.
Yeah, especially when you go to the doctor and the things that you're telling them doesn't make sense. Like, why are you giving me an allergy medication when my chest is hurting? I feel like I'm gonna throw up. That doesn't make sense, like, it just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
It feels like they're just kind of, making that money and then sending you home.
Yeah, and it's like, if somebody goes in with like, I have anxiety, this and that, they're so quick to give you, all right, take this drug to make you feel better, but they're never to ask, what is your lifestyle like?
Yeah.
Like, the food you're eating, are you working out? Are you living a life that you enjoy? Are you doing things that you enjoy? It's like, there's so many things where you can, or a psychologist comes in, you actually analyze what your life is like and saying, okay, maybe I can change this and change that and stop doing this, and you don't even need any medication.
Yeah, anxiety really, I feel like the solution for anxiety, which a lot of people say, you're just, you're positive thinking, you know, but I feel like it really is just like focus on yourself, focus on ways that make you not feel as anxious. Like I know a lot of people, like for me, I'll just tell myself like you're just anxious right now. Like you just need to calm down. Like you know like this is not like how you actually feel. This is just you know you're making this up type of thing. And that helps me to like you know chill out. Like you know realize like you know you're in the moment. Everything's gonna be fine. You know this isn't what you think it is. You know and like I feel like without you know because they prescribe medication for everything, man. Like I know people that go on to antidepressants. The second that they go off of them, way more depressed than they were in the first place. And so like I feel like this prescribing really just messes with people, man. Yeah. Especially like drugs that they barely know about. Like back in the day, they would prescribe opium, and now it's like heroin. You know, it's the same thing. Right. So it really creates more problems than good, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, and, you know, just the way society's set up in the pharmaceutical industry, unfortunately, it's not going to change.
That's just that whole thing is just a problem.
And but it's since it's a problem and it's most likely not going to change, it's very important to everyone to be knowledgeable that you can help yourself without those drugs and without that medication.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like with anxiety and depression and stuff, it's like, oh, they'll say like, oh, 13% of the population, blah, 0.2 million people are diagnosed with it. That's like the people that are diagnosed with it. Like there's almost everybody is dealing with anxiety and everyone's diagnosing themselves and stuff like that's the only amount that you statistically know about. Because most people aren't going to therapy. Most people aren't trying to help themselves. So like,
yeah,
a lot of people, no idea about it.
A lot of people are put in the position that I was put in before, where it's like you have to live your life without anxiety, because if you don't, then you are going to be at the bottom of the food chain. You know, you are not gonna, you know, succeed. Because a lot of people, you know, you're put in unfortunate circumstances. I know that I was lucky to get out of it, but there's a lot of people that are still in it that stay in the system until they're 18. And then when they get out of the system, what's the first place that they go? Because they have no other place to find family. They'll join gangs. They'll go find people that are doing drugs. And it just creates a cycle, man. You took those children from their parents so that they could get away from that life, and it just creates that life for them again, you know. So it really creates a lot of problems, you know.
Yeah. So, in your experience with that, when did you really realize that you have like, whether it's like this, like you said before, like the large amount of anxiety or like trauma in the back of your mind that you never dealt with and stuff, and when did you really start feeling like you were like, all right, like I need to deal with this?
Well, actually, it's kind of sad because it was like end of junior year, beginning of senior year when I really kind of like realized it, right? Because I had a teacher and she had struggled with a lot of things before, and you know we related on a lot of things, right? And she was 19 because she graduated high school early and then became a teacher, right? And so we would talk about it, and she would like tell me things like, oh, like you know, like you realize this is not, you know, just all in your head. Like you're not just making this up. Like it's a real thing, and you know you are anxious. And at first I'm not anxious, man. Like you know, obviously there's just something wrong. She's like, you realize like, and she explained it like this. She was like, imagine, you know, somebody tells you that a kid down the road was ripped out of his home from his parents, put into a system where they were competing to be the best, got taken out of the system and put into a home with random people, and then started feeling these random feelings of like pain in their chest, like thoughts that they couldn't get rid of. Wouldn't you think that child has something, you know, going on deeper than just, oh, like my parents did this to me?
Yeah.
And so it really kind of made me realize like, wow, like this is a problem that I need to, you know, figure out, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know, it's like, even though you said it's kind of sad that it took you so long to realize, it's like, at least you did.
Yeah.
Because you could literally be at the age you're at now and still not acknowledge it.
I know, like my mother, like I'm adopted now, so not my biological mother, my mother now, I know that she deals with extreme anxiety, but she doesn't realize it. Because, you know, she's kind of grown up in like the era where it's like nobody has anxiety, nobody's depressed, you're just sad, like stop being sad, you know, get over it.
Exactly.
And so she doesn't realize it, and a lot of times it's like I'll be really anxious and that makes her anxious, and then her anxiety makes me more anxious, and it kind of just like plays off of each other until we just explode together, you know. And so it creates problems, you know.
Yeah, and I think like the generation before us of like, oh no, anxiety doesn't exist, and it's a problem for them, and it's also a problem for their children, because it's you go to your parents and you're like, oh, I'm dealing with this and that, and they're like, no, that's not real, that's bullshit. And then it's just
there's no way to get you that help if they don't believe you. You know,
exactly.
Especially if you're under the age of 18, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
You know, you can't just go to the doctor by yourself.
Yeah.
You can't just go find a therapist by yourself. You need your parents to support you in that. And if they don't, then you're just kind of stuck on your own, you know, with no idea what's going on. Like I said, I had no idea why I felt this way.
Yeah.
Until recently. So.
Yeah. And like you said before, having friends to be able to talk about that with is really important, because it's like, because I know for me, for a long time, it's like I'm dealing with this anxiety, this depression, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I'm completely alone. But if you have friends or just people you know that you can talk about it with, you realize, like, I'm not the only person dealing with this. I'm not the only person that feels alone.
Yeah, it really only takes one text, man. Like, if you think that one of your friends is dealing with that one text can really do it. Like, I remember my best friend since like 5th grade. Once I got adopted, we met in my mom's church. Like, we were both just after the service had ended, my mom was helping with something, his mom was helping with something, and we met inside of this like little room in the back, and we became best friends after that. And he moved away to West Virginia, and I remember there was a night where I was feeling just horrible, right? It was right after I had quit, so and I would be high all night long, so like the what's it called? The withdrawals were bad, right? And I remember I just got a text from him. He was like, yo, like, you know, is everything good? Like, you know, text me all day, like, what's going on? And just that text, like, I felt better, you know? So really, like, you really got to be there for the people, you know, that are there for you as well.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, surrounding yourself with the right people is so important, because a lot of the time I think a lot of us are surrounded by the wrong people, and it's just the anxiety you have and stuff like that, that's provoked by them, whether it's conscious or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. So I want to dig into the music a little bit.
All right, bet.
So the first song I listened to, which was Instant Connection, I know you said sober was, even though it sounds like you could interpret it as it being a girl, it was more about your sobriety and your dealing with that. For Instant Connection, was that about a girl?
It was about a girl, unfortunately.
So what I took away from that was you struggling with love and having trust issues.
Yeah, so like I said, I was a foster child, so it kind of, I have a lot of problems with love. You know, it stems from deep within, and like I'll feel like one day, like, oh, I love like all these people, and the next day I like don't even want to say it to your face, you know? So that kind of created a real problem with me, which is another thing I'm trying to work on. And so I remember I was talking to this girl, and we have been texting. We're not just texting, but you know, we were like deep in the talking stage. You know, you're calling every night. You know, you're hanging out on the weekends, and it must have been like 3 months or something like that. And it was immature, but she said, "I love you," and I said nothing, and she did not like that. And so that night we did not talk on the phone, and I was sitting there, and I have kind of a home studio, right? So I do everything on my computer at home by myself. And so I was like, you know what? Like, let's make this song, because I was in the shower actually, which the shower, bro, I'm telling you, that's where you get all these. Every chorus that you hear, bro, was made in the fucking shower. I hop out the shower, get in my notes real quick, and hop back in. But no, I remember I was in the shower, and it was like, never felt such an instinct, like just over and over in my head. Got out the shower, straight to the studio, man, and I made that song. And yeah, it's about a girl, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which she's not around anymore, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, so how was that recently, or?
It was probably about a year ago.
A year ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So how old were you?
17, around 17. Okay. Yeah.
Because I think about it, and I think about the phrase "I love you" pretty deeply, because I think a lot of people our age, especially when you're in high school, it's like people are just throwing around.
I hate it. I hate that.
I mean, it's like, honestly, in my first relationship, it was from my summer of sophomore year to sometime in my junior year we broke up, and beginning in the relationship, it was like she had the urge and was about to say "I love you," and I stopped her. I was like, don't say that, you don't mean that, because you don't know what that means. And I, to relate to you a little bit, I've struggled with being able to say those words, because there were nights when I was with her and I'm like, I really want to say it, but I'm like, am I gonna feel this tomorrow? Yeah. Do I really mean it? Really? Because it's like those words, you can't take that back, man. Once you say something like that, it's like then they got all these thoughts in their head and stuff like that. It's like, I feel like something like that, it's just you gotta know in your heart that you really mean it. Which with me, man, I even find it hard saying I love you to my family now. So saying that to somebody that I just met 3 months ago, or I've been dating for even a year, it's like,
even though that's a long time, like family's longer, and I'm still struggling with that, you know. So like, it really is difficult for me, man. And people do, they throw it around. I hate how that word is used so like nonchalantly. Like it is a lot deeper than you think, you know. Like especially, like I know some people will be like, oh, you know, just say it. Like my mom would be like, just say it back, just say it back. I'm like, it's not just say it back, you know. And it's gotta be a certain mindset, which sometimes I just don't have.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think sometimes, with like, if it's someone you're in a talking stage with, like, there's nothing wrong with not saying that back. It's like if you don't fully feel that way, it's like there's nothing wrong with you not saying.
I would rather you be honest with me, or I'd rather be honest with somebody than me lie to their face or them lie to me, and then the relationship end like that, and be like, oh, you know, like why did you said this to me? Like what are you talking about?
Exactly.
And then like, oh, I didn't even mean it. Like I was just saying it because I feel like that's worse than being like, at least he never said I love you.
Yeah, and I think that's something like that. A situation like that is what occurs a lot nowadays, and people are saying things they don't mean, doing things they don't mean, just so they can stay in a relationship with the person, and they're not being honest.
Yeah.
So you're creating a foundation for a relationship that's not built on honesty. So you do this and you do that, and then one day you're like, I don't want to put up this facade anymore. I don't want to wear this mask anymore. I want to be me. So a year down the road, you start to act yourself.
Yeah.
And then the person is like, your partner is like,
who is this?
Who the fuck are you? Like you're not Johnny, you're not whatever, right? And it's like, then the relationship is ended. You just wasted each other's time. Like, sure, you gained experience, and I'm sure you learned a lot of things, but ultimately, you wasted each other's time.
Yeah, I really believe that every single thing that happens in life, like, even the small things, man, like, you know, you help your friend with something, that's a lesson for you, that's a lesson for them, man. Like, that's something that they can remember forever, you know? And so, like, those relationships, it's very important to watch the way you do things. And even if a relationship does end, because obviously we've been through a lot of them, you know, they end quick or they start quick, and then maybe you don't even get into a relationship with a person. But each one of those talking stages, each one of those, you know, those good nights where you guys are falling asleep on FaceTime together, like they mean something. You know, you need to really think about what you're doing and realize like some of the stuff that you're doing is immature and you don't even know it yet, or realize that some of the things you're doing you should probably be doing differently. You know, and so there's a lot of things that you really need to learn from these relationships. And I feel like that's one of them, you know, the way that you use the word love, the way that you do love somebody, the way that you know, show that affection needs to be a certain way.
100%. Because I remember back probably my freshman year of high school, before I started to like, you know, focus on mental health and make my life better. Of course, I was very immature, and I met this girl, and we never met in person. We lived in different states, but you know, we call all the time, get really close or whatever. And we started saying I love you at night before we went to bed. And now looking back at that now, it's like, it's just funny to me. It's like,
what was I doing?
It's like, did you really mean that, man?
Yeah, no, those. I never had a long distance, but I know what you mean. I could never. Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, looking back at that, it's like, it is what it is. You live and you learn.
Yeah, because you know you won't do that again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Was there ever in any relationships or talking stages, were there any like trust issues that you dealt with?
Bro, every single one of them. Like I said, man, like it goes back to like when I was younger, man. Like I had my parents for a little bit, then and I just realized recently, because I talked to my mom again recently, you know, my actual mother. And I remember when I was younger, I'd be in foster homes. I'd be on my knees like crying, like, oh, I want my mom back. Like, where is she? And I talked to her recently. She's a drug addict. She lives in Ohio. You know, she's having a baby with some crack dealer. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, I feel like I've wasted my life away on her, like, because up until I was 16 years old, I was like, oh, I want to go back with my mom. I'm gonna turn 18. Like fuck my adopted mom. I'm gonna turn 18. I'm gonna go live with my actual mom. And then I realized like that it's all just, you know, in your head. And I think about it now, like when I like get into a relationship, I'm like, man, I don't want to put my everything into somebody, like, you know, put all your eggs in one basket, and then, you know, it just turns out like they were not the one for you, and I just wasted my time, or I wasted my life away, I wasted a lot of money, you know, I wasted opportunities. I know there's been plenty of times where I've been with a girl, and I've gotten the opportunity to do something, and I turned it down because I wanted to be with her instead. Like, I know one of my friends, he recently was in a relationship with a girl, and he was gonna go to college in New York, and he didn't go. And they just broke up, and it's like, dude, like you really could have had like a very big opportunity, and you wasted on a girl, you know. And it really, and I don't want that with anybody. So my childhood really did affect the way that I trust people now.
Yeah, nah, man, I see a lot of people, especially with that, you know, it's usually more on the guy aspect than the girl. It's like the girl's doing this, and then the guy's like, okay, I feel the need to follow. So like they won't, like you just said, they won't go to a certain school. They won't pursue this certain life path. And at that point, it's like you're just being disingenuous with yourself. It's like even if the relationship does last for the next few years, it's like you're avoiding like your life's purpose, what you really want to do.
Even if it lasts 3 years after that, okay, but what about the 20 years that's going to come after that, 30 or 40 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like, those short relationships, especially, like, I've been in relationships before where it was over after 6 months, but I still stayed in that relationship 6 months farther, you know? Because it just felt like, you know, what I wanted, and it really wasn't, you know? It's all, you know, chasing physical things, chasing that emotional attachment, you know? When really, you know, you shouldn't have that anyway. You know, you should be, you know, focused on yourself. And that's what I really realized, like, through sobriety, through my music, through, you know, the friendships that I have now, is that you really need to just focus on yourself for a little bit, man. Go to the gym, you know, fix your mental health. Because there's no way that me, with as anxious as I've been recently, or, you know, with how I've realized how anxious I am, for me to go and get with a girl, you know, like, it would be the most unhealthy thing ever. And so it really is, and it's almost immature for me to know that, or for you to know that, and to go and do it anyway, you know? And so you really need to realize, like, I need to be more mature with the actions that I'm taking, the, you know, the thoughts that I have. So
yeah, and, you know, I always tell people, you know, it's like when you don't focus on yourself, and then you get into a relationship to fill that hole in you of like, I feel like I'm alone, I'm not good enough, etc. It's, you know, you have all these issues, right? You get into a relationship, let's say the relationship lasts a year. You get into a relationship, all of those problems are still there.
Yeah.
You just threw them in the back of your mind. You're going to have to deal with them.
And I deal with all of those years' problems at one time.
Yeah.
It just makes it worse, man. And I'm not saying that girls make it worse, but girls make it worse. So.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, the most important thing is to get your mind right, get your physical health right, realize what you want, so that you don't accept every single girl that comes to
and
you.
focus on that, man. The girl of your dreams will come to you. Like, the girl that you need to be with, she will come to you. She will, you know, do things for you. Because she, you know, if she really wants to be with you, if she really loves you, then she will make those compromises for you. You shouldn't have to change who you are. She shouldn't have to change who she is. And it should work out like that. And if it doesn't, I hate to break it to you, but it might not be it, man.
Yeah, I've found that in my experience and with other people, you know, as a man, the best relationships come when the girl wants you first, and then you start to like her, whatever, as opposed from you liking her first and her not fucking with you, and then you're trying to go through all these hoops to get her to like you. It's like, if she didn't like you in the first place, is it really worth it?
And a lot of times when you're doing shit like that, it's all lustful, man. None of it is actual love. None of it is actual, like, what you want. It's just like what you want in the moment, which we all know, but it really creates problems.
Yeah, 100%. So in your next song, which is titled Anxiety, you know, the takeaways that I got from that were feeling alone, feeling hopeless, lost in life. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Which, that song, man, I remember that night. It was a rough night. I was, because all my music probably happened after 4 a.m. Probably. It's like one of those nights where you're up all night and you're like, fuck, man, like, I need to do something with all this stuff that's going on in my head. Put it down on the paper, and, you know, you let it out. And I remember I was on a Discord call with one of my boys, and he was making a song as well. And I was just thinking, bro, and I was trying to talk to him, and he's just making this beat. He's like, dude, I have to get this. Like, I have a deadline. It's like next week. Like, I need to be focused on this shit. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, you know what? Left the call, got into the music making software, and I was in it. And I actually made that song a long ass time ago. And then the one that I released on the album was a revised version, because I always loved that song. It was one of my first. And so, actually, the first verse was completely different before. I changed the whole first verse, and I re-recorded everything. And so, like, in the old one, there was a lot of, like, really, like, deep shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is a little too rough. Let me just back all that shit out. And so, yeah, I really felt alone, man. Like, it was at a point where, like, it must have been, like, the end of senior year. It was right after the withdrawals were hitting. And even after withdrawals, like, you know, when you're smoking weed every day, it's taking you from, even if you have 1% anxiety, right? Let's say 1% of your entire mental health is anxiety, right? Which is great. I wish I could be you, right? But let's say 1%. If you're smoking weed every day and that's at 0%, after 2 years of that, when that 1% comes back, it's gonna feel like a million, you know, because you've been used to having 0, right? And so those like, I would even say 6 months after quitting, it was like the anxiety was horrible. Like it was the worst I ever felt. And so I remember I sat down and I was like my friend, he had just got a girlfriend at the time. And so he's my best friend. He lives in another state now, so I don't really get to talk to him that much. So he had just got a girlfriend, and you know how that goes. Always on the phone with her, blah, blah, blah. My other friend, he had just got his first girlfriend, which you know how that fucking goes.
Yep.
So that was even worse. And all I had was my boy, and he was doing a deadline for music. And so it was like, I had me and my microphone, and that's it. And so I just felt like it was just me, and that's it. You know, like I felt like I was just so alone in that moment. And so that song came out, and a lot of people like it. Actually, that's one of the fan favorites. So
yeah,
that works for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best music is when musicians and artists like release and express what's truly inside them. Because there's a lot of rappers and stuff nowadays that are just spitting shit. They're just saying random ass shit.
Killed somebody, and then I went down the block.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay.
And it's like they're not being genuine about what they're rapping about, and then they don't actually care about it, etc. But when you pour things out from your heart, I mean. With anything in life, it always makes it better.
That song came from one of the darkest places in my life, man. So I'm glad that a lot of people like it.
Yeah, and then stuff like that, a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to another thing that kind of relates to that is like just feeling lost. Because I dealt with that a lot. What's your experience with just feeling lost in life?
Go to the gym. That's the solution, man. If you feel lost, go to the fucking gym, bro. You will find yourself really quick, bro. I'm telling you. Like, what I always do, let's say I'm dealing with a hard decision. I'm like, you're in school, so you realize like them deadlines come quick, and when they come, you don't want to fucking deal with them. And so what I do, I've got a lot of shit going on in my head. I'm feeling anxious. Sometimes I'm feeling depressed. Get up, go to the gym. After the gym, bro, it's like a clear mind. It's like I'm sure you've heard the term post-nut clarity.
Yep.
It's like after you nut, it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
After you go to the gym, you got that clarity, bro. You will realize exactly what you need to be doing, exactly what you should be focused on. It's like the anxiety, everything goes away for that 30 minutes after, and you have like completely clear thoughts. Everything is perfect after that. And so that's when I really make the best decisions. And so if you feel lost, if you feel like you're looking in the wrong areas, find them. Maybe I shouldn't say go to the gym. Find an outlet. Go and do your outlet, and afterwards, then make your decisions. Like a lot of people that go to therapy. After that therapy session, a lot of things become clear. You know exactly what to do with your time. You know exactly what you're doing. So find that outlet, do it, and make your decisions after that. Don't make those drastic decisions where you're in your room, you're fucking crying in your arms. You're like, you know what? I'm moving to Canada. Like, no, bro, don't do that. Make your decisions, based on, healthy thoughts.
Yeah. Making decisions in that state of mind and being really emotional is never good.
Yeah. My God.
And just being locked in your room all day and stuff like that, it's
never
like,
good either.
If you get outside, like you're battling with all these thoughts because you're sitting in your room, but you go outside, you just get some fresh air, everything starts to become more clear. I think just something as simple as just standing or walking outside is something that is like,
take some deep breaths, man. Sit in the sunlight. You need to become in tune with the things around you, man. Like the darkness in your room is not worth your time, man. Like you're spending so much time laying in bed watching, TV, doing nothing. It's like that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you really need to like get out there, do something with your life.
Exactly. So, your song "Sober." Not actually about an ex-girlfriend.
It is not about a girl. It is completely about sobriety. Where some of the stuff in there, it's like it sounded good, so I left it in there. It sounds like you're relating to a girl, but I feel like for a lot of people, if you don't have anxiety, or if you don't struggle with sobriety, it is very easy to relate to a breakup, And so I made it almost like so everybody can understand it. If you've dealt with a sobriety problem, that song probably feels completely different for you. If you've dealt with, a breakup, that song feels completely different for you, but it can be for both of those people, and that's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah.
So the whole song is kind of about like, the mixed emotions that you have with sobriety, right? So it's like, I feel almost used, you go and you're like, you feel like you need the drug, you feel like you need the drug, you feel like you need the drug. You do it, and then afterwards you feel like shit. And it's like, damn, like, I really went through all that beforehand, wanting this, and I got no reward from it. And so I related it to like when you're in a relationship and you're chasing a girl and she doesn't want you, but she's still in that relationship, which I've dealt with that before too. So the song just kind of, brings all those thoughts together. And a lot of people. I showed it to my boy, and he was like, "Damn, bro, that sounds like some Drake lyrics." And it says, "You can't fuck me up, I'm sober."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? I explained it to him. He was like, "That is the best song on the album."
Yeah.
And so once you kind of realize that, then you realize like wow, it's like it's a deeper meaning,
Yeah, right.
So that's what I was going for on that one.
Yeah, and I think when people are listening to it, for them to be able to interpret it in different ways, I think that's such a beautiful thing about music, is you can write it a certain way, and then people think about it in a different way.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted. That was my 100% intentions for that song.
Yeah. And then to get to I think we're running out of time, unfortunately, but we got 1 minute left. But to rely on someone in a relationship, that's what I got from Pest.
Yeah, Pest, also written a while ago, but I always loved that song, so I put it on the album as the last song. I wanted 5, and so I put that one on there because I have like a big slew of music, but that was the one that I wanted on there. And it really is, you rely so much on somebody, and then realize they weren't the person for you, man.
Yeah.
They also had mental health problems that were affecting the relationship as much as yours were. Right. So like in the song I say, the rubble of your past relationships, and you're putting that on me, right? And so like all of that stuff from the past gets put on me, and that makes my life harder, and it makes your life harder. So I feel like it doesn't help either of us.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was going with that one.
100%. Well, Kodi, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
I love it. Yeah.
And
had a good time.
go check out his album.
Yeah, @ProdLoopy on Instagram, PRODLOOPY. Follow me. I'll have more music out soon. The album just came out. It should be out on Spotify soon. Spotify's playing around, but every other platform, TikTok, Apple Music, YouTube, it's out. So go ahead and click the link in my bio. You can get that. It'll be in his description. So.
All right, sounds good. We'll check you guys on the next one.
Have a good
Peace.
one, guys.